show setting up attribution for new client accounts. So if you get, for example, if you hire a new employee and you want to show them the ropes on attribution and you don't have the time to train them yourself, you could use this video to kind of get them the Coles notes on setting it up. You'll still want to create your own checklists and your own resources internally on doing this kind of thing, but this would be a good intro for them. My name is Adriel Michaud, and to state the obvious, I'm not the CEO. Yeah, this is the CEO chat. You guys already got duped into it. This is like the perfect clickbait, eh? So I'm the VP of Marketing over at ActiveDEMAND. I've been using marketing automation since about 2006, so I've been using it for a long time. I really enjoy the science side of digital marketing, and I think that marketing automation really ties into that because of the data, the attribution, the numbers behind it is really awesome. And just to let you guys know, I've had like 2 or 3 cups of coffee today, so I might talk a little bit fast. If I talk too fast for you guys, just go ahead and throw a question in the GoToWebinar questions section there, and we'll answer it at the end. And if I can't answer it at the end, I'll be talking to the guys over in support. And that's really one thing that I'd like to pitch right off the start here is we've got a fantastic support team. You guys have, since you're all clients or trial users, you may have engaged with our support people. They're real people, and they're available via the support.activedemand.com. The other thing I wanted to mention is that if you see stuff in here, you're like, yeah, that's awesome. I really need this attribution stuff. I can't get the time, or my people are all busy doing other stuff. We do have implementation services as well. We want to train you guys and have you be experts in the platform and be able to do this stuff. But if you can't get the time together, we can definitely help you out and get some of that work done that's necessary. I mean, part of the reason why we're talking about this stuff today is that attribution is really important for showing value in digital marketing and marketing in general, and that's why it's something that we're pushing hard for. In terms of today, we're going to talk about a couple of different things in terms of setting up the attribution. Now, just in terms of like your note taking, don't worry, I'm going to have like all the links for this stuff sent out with our emails afterwards, as well as the recording of the presentation as well. For this presentation, I'm going to assume that you have some familiarity with Google Analytics and other standard marketing technology. If you don't, it's going to be hard to kind of grasp some of the stuff that we're going to be talking about today. And I'm going to be referring a lot to clients as if that you're all agencies. For the people out there who aren't agencies or who are just B2B, just keep in mind this stuff all holds true. You all have stakeholders inside your companies. So you may not have a client that's an external client. You may have an internal client like a different department or different VPs or things like that. So I've got lots of questions for you guys to ask for your customers and some homework for you at the end. And we're also keep in mind that most of what I'm covering today is also in our support section as well as articles or whatnot. First, just a real quick overview on what attribution is. Just good attribution is understanding which advertising and marketing quote unquote works. So when I say works, you should be able to measure the influence your marketing is having on your prospects' behavior. You should be able to say, you know what, out of 100 people, if I do X marketing to them, I'm going to get Y result. It should be predictable and it should be measurable so that you can fully understand and fully tell what your marketing is doing. You should be able to help predict future behavior. So if your boss comes up or your client says, hey, you know, we have all this money freed up. We've got a new round of venture capital into the company, and we have $2 million to spend on marketing next year. You should be able to have some good insight into how to spend that money and where to spend that money. So if you have good attribution and good understanding of what marketing is working, you're going to be able to know how to allocate that budget appropriately and know how to spend that $2 million. And conversely, it works the other way around, right? If your boss or your client says, "Hey, crunch time, we gotta chop our budget in half," you would know which channels and where to reallocate your spend and which ones you'd want to chop first. And really, when it comes down to it, good attribution is the backbone of strategy that doesn't suck. A lot of people think that marketing strategy is just the act of putting a bunch of creative things all together, going alphabet soup and picking all sorts of different weird channels to add to a strategy. But that's not really like a pragmatic strategy that gets a business result all the time. If you understand attribution, you understand what works for your customers and why it works for your customers, you're going to be better suited to make great strategy. Now, one question I might have for everyone in the room today is just how solid is your attribution? This is kind of a funnily worded question because I couldn't figure out how to how to boil it down. But of the customers that you have today, or your clients, their customers, how many of them do you fully understand how marketing influenced them to get there? So if you get 100 customers in a month, how many of them came from marketing, and which marketing channels influenced them to get there? And I think that most customers, this answer would be very low. They might understand how 30% of those customers were influenced by marketing, or they might understand colloquially or case by case basis. Bob said he saw my my banner ad or something like that on a website. But is that really what influenced him? I don't really know. And I think most people out there don't actually have like a very high confidence level in how their marketing is influencing customer and client behavior. And really, getting these high percentages is actually incredibly difficult. I would say even getting past 75%, unless you're e-commerce. E-commerce is a little bit easier because you get you get your source medium fairly easily. But getting past 75% in a lead generation business, like a B2B business or a business that does larger deals, quote-based deals, is actually really tough. Even getting past 75%, you're probably going to need your client to work with you on that, and you're going to need to have a little bit of back and forth. Hey, client, I found this lead. I've exhausted everything. I have no idea where this person came in from. And your client might be able to say, oh, well, that's Bob's second cousin. That's why they came in. Oh, a referral. Okay. Thanks for the information. And now you can understand better where those clients are coming from. So now, one of the reasons why I wanted to pull this up isn't to make us all feel bad about, oh man, I don't have a very solid understanding at all of which of my clients and how they got here. The reason why I pull this up, most marketing groups out there are making marketing strategy decisions on visibility into less than 30% of their leads. So just think about that. Like millions and millions of dollars, and all these marketing groups out there are making their decisions on really insignificant data, really data that's just not very good. So today we're talking about making your attribution more solid. So if you've got your attribution at 50%, how do we get it up to 75%? How do we get it up to 90%? Or if you're at 0, how do we get started off? And really, even that act is going to give us a little bit more insight into what's working and why we need to improve it. So if you're looking at for other reasons on why you want to enhance attribution, there's a couple of selfish reasons. One of them is improving your craft, just becoming better at marketing. Too many people out there. I used to interview a lot of, and I still do interview marketing people from time to time. And the funny thing is that the years of experience isn't necessarily indicative of how good a marketer they are. I find the best marketers come from places that really know what worked, and they get this pragmatism about them. So I've hired people from automotive, for example. That's an industry that is usually very well tied to results, and the marketers who spend a couple of years there are better marketers that might spend a couple of years at a place that doesn't know the results. So just selfishly for yourself, understanding attribution is going to make you better at your craft. You're going to get better CPA-based bidding. So your digital advertising on Google Ads and Facebook and that kind of thing is all going to get better because you're going to have attribution in. You're not going to throw the baby out with the bathwater. So if you start doing campaigns and you start saying, hey, we got to cut one of our campaigns, if you know which campaigns are working, you stand less of a risk that you're going to throw out the campaign that was actually having all the impact for you. And that's a good thing. Pragmatically, for agencies out there, this is going to make it easier for you to keep clients longer. and keep clients for a long-term basis. Clients get worried that they're spending money and not seeing return, and that it's not working. They get worried that they're just shredding cash for no reason. So really, this is giving them comfort that they made the right decision by choosing you. And if you're in-house, this is giving your VPs and your other stakeholders comfort that you're important to the company and you're critical to the company's success. So I want to show an example report here that it might look very familiar. This might look like a report that you've seen or you've even delivered to clients in the past. And let's just sit here for a second. What are the things that are wrong with this report? There's a couple of them. The number one danger that I see to a report like this is that customers can't understand it and you waste their time. You're really wasting a customer's time with a report like this because this isn't a report that's customer facing. And if they get used to you wasting their time, they won't pay attention to the stuff when there is something that's really interesting. So I think that's one risk. I've had a customer that we would send ranking reports to, and those ranking reports were actually showing that SEO-wise, they were ranking amazingly. They're killing it, but there was too much of it, and it wasn't important to the customer, and they didn't care. So that's risk number one. You're giving them information that isn't useful to them. Number two is that they can misunderstand the stats. You could show new versus returning. You could show bounce rate. You could show pages per session, average session duration, and they could take out what they want out of those statistics, or they could misread those statistics. Average session duration, 1 minute and 45 seconds. That's way too short. We got to do something. Let's put an autoplay video at the front of our website, and let's do that to get people to stay on the page longer. Boy, that would be a mistake, right? And so the number two risk, they can misunderstand it. You're showing them stats that are difficult to understand, and you really need to be an expert to understand them. Number three, and this is the biggest one that I see here, you're actually lying to them without knowing it. That conversions number at the top, I've got a bone to pick with conversions. Conversions just by itself, without filtering them and without boiling them down, becomes a lie statistic. Sometimes you might even say that these are the number of leads you've got for the client. Yes, we've delivered you 202 leads. But the reality is that if those conversions aren't filtered very well, that's a bold-faced lie. And when I look at clients' analytics and I compare their conversions versus the number of quote-unquote sales-ready true leads, there's a huge difference. Usually the difference between reported conversions and real leads is like 5 to 1, 6 to 1, 7 to 1. Usually the number I use is 7 to 1, and I always think to myself, like, man, that number is way too big. That can't be right. I just looked at our numbers, like for ActiveDEMAND the other day. It was 6 to 1. It's close enough, right? So suffice to say, we need to stop building reports like this. Reports like this aren't insightful to the client. They don't give them reassurance that our marketing is working. And we need to move to a model that has better quantitative statistics, fewer quantitative statistics, and the odd qualitative measure. So I've got an example here. Now we're moving from these kind of difficult to understand reports to something that's a lot more undeniable. So saying the number of, giving them a measure that is important to them, sales ready leads. Now, how did we generate those leads? If they care. You know, some clients don't care how you generate the leads. They just want you to generate more each month, and that's fair enough. Or you could show where those leads come from channels. And the thing that I would encourage you guys to do, and you will see how to get here towards the end of this deck, is adding in a client or two. Putting a person's name in here makes a difference. And the reason why it makes a difference is because the client will still have that voice in the back of their head saying, 45 leads. I don't think that's right. Maybe I did get 45 leads this month, but I got some really bad ones, and I got a couple of really good ones. Where did the bad ones come from, and where did the good ones come from? So the whole idea, that sample lead at the bottom there, the whole idea of including one of these with each report is to not only put the cherry on top, but to put the point in. These are good quality leads. So yes, Bill from Global Electric Rewinding came in through a Google Ads search for fleet vehicles. You know, showing that journey shows how it works, and it gives the customer comfort into the fact that your marketing is having an impact for them and is improving the business and having an impact on revenue. So before we get into attribution just yet, we'll need to do a little bit of planning. Really, one of the things that we want to do is track everything to one place. This will prevent the left hand not knowing what the right hand is doing, and it should improve our understanding of the true user journey. So if we have one contact database to rule them all for marketing, that means we have one place where we're tracking activity, one place where we're generating conversions, one place where we're filtering out the bots and garbage, and one place where we can really do some meaty marketing statistical analysis where we calculate customer cost of acquisition or cost per acquisition or whatever metrics we want to pull out. So the only way we get to do this in a really smart way is if we have all of this stuff in one place. If it's in multiple places, that's where it can be a little bit more difficult, and you miss some of the user journey as well. So what am I talking about in terms of activities and conversions? Activities would be like website usage, email opens or clicks if you're sending emails out to your clients, like campaigns and that kind of thing. Conversions, form submissions, and contact phone call-ins are most of the conversion you'll see. I would want to encourage you guys to also, when you're talking about clients or internal clients, is also to look at where appointments might be the better choice. Sometimes clients have like a contact form on their website just out of habit, out of like, well, everyone has a contact form, but actually what they need is an appointment booker. So take a look at those, because that can be a full replacement for some clients. And then live chat for the ones that need it. And then as well, you need to track some of these extra traffic channels. Email is one that you would need to add additional tracking to, referrals, paid, and that kind of thing. And the way we would do this is documenting this step with a measurement plan of some kind. This is something that you'd want to pre-build and then bring questions and assumptions to your client. So in this measurement plan, you would document what you're tracking, what you're not tracking, and what is a lead. And putting a really good definition around what a lead is, if you're in the business of lead generation, is really important, because it sets expectations with the client. If you don't set expectations with the client early, you leave room for them to dream up fantasies on what you're going to do for them. So I think that, like, again, setting out that conversion or that lead is very important. And then as well, this is a good point to kind of take a look around and determine if there's any conversion leaks. And by conversion leak, I mean, is there an email address on the website that customers can email you at? There's a conversion leak. Now a customer can copy and paste that email into their email program and just send an email off to sales. And although this sounds like we're not giving customers all the options that they want, I really would recommend, instead of putting a bunch of email addresses on a website, to put a form and make them fill out a form, or a phone number, or a live chat, something that is trackable. Because if we have conversion leaks, we don't get all the data. Our percentage of customers where we know how marketing influenced them goes down, and we don't get all the insight that we want. And this is also a good place, once you have like a document with some of your assumptions in, where you can go to your customers and find out kind of what makes them tick, and you can ask them questions. Is this phone call a lead? Is a form fill a lead? When do we pass things off to sales? And it's a really good point to talk to your customers and get better understanding with them. And really, this spot where you want to point out is what you can't track. This is a pro tip to keep you from setting the wrong expectations with your client, setting out what you can't track and making it clear there. So when we get into implementation, and this is again the spot where all these implementation steps are going to be on the support portal. I also have some recommended topics for the client and some homework for you again at the end. And while everything is really important to track, for 95% of clients, you really want to get website tracking, forms, and phone calls going. This is, again, the meat and potatoes of where conversions are for most of our lead gen clients, and really what we need to be focusing on. Again, all of these articles are on support.activedemand.com. So if you need to like dig into this or get back to it or get more detail, there's better articles over there that'll cover all this stuff. So I want to cover two different options for you guys. This is how you deploy these for clients. One's a native and one is a no-code option. The native option is the one that we really recommend. This is where you would enter code in via the WordPress plugin or template or whatever the case might be. This gets the ActiveDEMAND tracking code on the website, and it also means that you would replace the web forms on the website with ActiveDEMAND website forms. So there's the native option. This is the better option. If you have a really weird web form, you might want to consider using our web API to post the form using JavaScript. That's, again, if you've got something weird going on the website or something like that's very, very custom. The virtual or no code option, this might be if you've got a client who's doesn't have access to their website or won't give you access to the website, or their CMS is really bad and you don't want to touch it, or if it's might break the website. Generally, this option, you'll need Google Tag Manager. And it uses this combination of Tag Manager and ActiveDEMAND to both get the code onto the website as well as detect virtual form submits. So whatever form solution you have in place, we're going to virtually detect when those forms get submitted and use that to get the data into ActiveDEMAND. So these are the two options that we have for getting the code on the website and replacing forms and getting phone calls all in there. I would, again, recommend the native version rather than the virtual or no code, but the virtual or no code option is very fast to deploy. And it's also, if it's your only option because you can't get code onto your website, it might be the only way you can do things, right? Now, the first one I would recommend, a lot of companies are going to WordPress these days, and the WordPress plugin from ActiveDEMAND does this in a very easy way. You don't have to get into code and do anything crazy. Just pop in the ActiveDEMAND plugin. You get an API key that's very super secret, and it's on your profile, and you pop it in, and you're good to go. The benefit of this, of going to this native version, is that the form elements, you can segment prospects by what they put into the form. So if someone says, yes, I'm interested in the platinum version in a form submit, you could market to them differently afterwards. Whereas with the virtual one, you won't be able to. You'll also get better reporting on the forms. You'll be able to get an autoresponder. You'll be able to control the web form within ActiveDEMAND. You'll be able to pre-fill in forms. So if someone comes back to the website, maybe you could fill in their name or their location or whatever the case might be inside that form. And those are all things that you can't do if you do the virtual or no code option. If you have to go to the no code option with Google Tag Manager, this is what you would do. You would go into your Tag Manager instance, you would set up custom HTML, and you'd run the ActiveDEMAND script. So where it says super secret code, that's going to be different for all of you guys, and it'll be in your ActiveDEMAND portal once you log in. And really, I would recommend just fire this on all pages, and this gets you that tracking on your website. Now, for the virtual form submit, there's a little bit of extra code that you have to put into Google Tag Manager, and I'll put like a little asterisk at the bottom here. This is also on the support portal, so don't madly try to like screen cap and retype this stuff in because it's already on our website. But you'll also have to add this little bit of code either on the website or inside Google Tag Manager to get those virtual form submits. So this is again the way that we get that data into ActiveDEMAND when someone virtually submits a form. Now that we've got the code on the website, the next thing we want to set up is call tracking. And this is one that, geez, for the last like 10 years, most businesses have been completely ignoring. They've just been, well, the phone calls that come in, those don't get tracked, or they don't get don't really get thought of a lot. And that's the unfortunate part, because it's actually kind of hard to get information from sales on this and get really good information. So definitely when you're talking with clients, try to get them to be okay with using a dynamic phone number on their website, a phone number that switches out, because that's going to let us track which source and medium drove them to the website. Otherwise, someone comes to the website, they do a bunch of stuff, they call, and those two things aren't connected. But by using the dynamic phone numbers, they are connected. The second thing that you might want to consider is using tracked or forwarded numbers for brochures, TV, and ad, and that kind of thing. So when you're talking with your client, try to find out where those other conversion leaks are. That's really what this is. If they're going to a trade show and they're bringing a leave behind or a printout, try to get a tracked phone number on that thing, because you can see what the impact that it has on clients. You can try to measure the impact it has on their behavior. And keep in mind that, like, anonymous calls, they're not going to allow for this qualitative measurement or this checking in afterwards. So when we get into call tracking, I'm just going to show you a quick example here. We would just go into the call tracking area of ActiveDEMAND, and you can search for local or toll-free numbers. You can search via location and area code to find different phone numbers that you can use. And all these phone numbers are going to be is just like a forwarding phone number. Someone calls 587-602-1142, and they get forwarded to your quote-unquote real phone number, and we track that call in, which is fantastic. Now we're tracking something that we didn't have tracking on before. And it's a similar idea for the dynamic phone numbers. So on our website, we have this 800-658-4305 number, and we replace that one with a pool of phone numbers, so that people who are coming to the website, we can connect that person and track where they're coming from. And all we do is just grab a whole bunch of different phone numbers and dynamically replace the ones on our website. You can change which customers you do this for, so whether they come from the US or Canada are the only ones that we really want to track with these phone numbers. So that's why we choose to use a dynamic number insertion or DNI pool like this. The other option that I would encourage you guys to consider with your clients is recording the call. Now, depending on the province or state, there's going to be some requirements around this. You might have to say this call may be recorded for quality assurance purposes, kind of thing, on the way in. But the things you get out of these are fantastic. The recording and transcription of the call, this is using our call forensics here, was actually something that was really interesting to me when I first started on with ActiveDEMAND. I listened, so first week on, I listened to a bunch of sales calls to understand where customers were at, what features they mentioned right off the hop. Like they just called us, they're super interested. What did they call about? What features did they explicitly mention without sales pitching it? And the interesting thing about that, I learned about which features I needed to pitch. I learned about which channels they might have came in on. And I learned a lot about our customers and how to position the product. So this is a super valuable thing for marketing. It's also valuable for sales. If you have salespeople and sales management, listening to your salespeople's calls will be really insightful to understand whether they're doing what you want them to or not. Now, the next thing that we'll want to do is get better pass-through. I don't really have a great word for this. I'm calling it like channel pass-through data. But Google Ads, so on the Google Ads platform side, it's got all this cool information, campaign, ad group, keyword data, all this cool stuff. And they share it with analytics, and through that GCLID parameter, they send it on to analytics and they get the information there. But my problem is that both of those are anonymous. And I want to say Bob from Acme came through this key phrase. And I can't do that with anonymous. So I need it in ActiveDEMAND. I need it in other platforms. And the nice thing is that Google Ads has a feature for this. They call it value track. Those values get sent along to whatever platform if you format the URL in a certain way. Now, this sounds really complicated, but it really isn't. This is super easy if you just copy our example. You can customize it, but this is the example we have on our support article is pretty good just by itself. Now, the example is using a template. So for each different account, you would go to account settings, you would enter in the tracking template. There's this really long gobbledygook URL here. Keep in mind, that's in our support article. All you have to do is copy that and paste it in your account, and Google Ads will be sending that value track information along with the clicks. The next piece is just adding a place for that to land in ActiveDEMAND. So inside ActiveDEMAND, you'd want to set out your campaign, ad group, keywords, and placement. And that's it. Now, after you've done that, you'll get information coming into ActiveDEMAND that'll show you where these people came from. So yes, I got either visits or conversions, or both really. On these visits, I can see which campaign they came from, which ad group they came from, and what keyword triggered their click. This is all really interesting information because it gives me real insight into real keywords that connect me with real people, like the real leads that I wanted to. This isn't anonymous, this isn't conversions, this isn't that 200 number that I was talking about before when it was really 50. This is a real number and a real person. So super interesting and super valuable for making reporting that really rings with your customers. So I'd really recommend setting up value track on Google Ads for the customers, or for the campaigns where you're running Google Ads for your customers. Now, the next thing to consider, why don't you do the same thing for Facebook? Now, this is fairly new. They gave you the ability to set up these different source medium names, content. But there's also, you see that add parameter button there? You could also throw in placements, ad groups, and campaigns in this. Now, you see that like little yellow warning sign there. That's just Facebook saying, hey, this ad group will be the, what did they say? They said the ad group can't change the name. If you change the name, it doesn't matter. Whatever you set it with originally, that's its name forever. So likely these are still early days for some of these parameters on Facebook, but nevertheless, we can get in much of the same information, that same really good channel information inside ActiveDEMAND, which is fantastic because now we get to see Bob from Acme came in through a Facebook ad, this such a placement, this such an ad group, and helps give us really good information on where this stuff is coming from. Now, the next piece is that we'll definitely want to get conversions back to the ad platform, because these ad platforms, some of them offer conversion-based algorithms where it will bid automatically on the keywords that will cause a conversion. So like Google Ads will do this, and really getting this stuff going like that is fantastic. And again, if we can get away from that conversion, which is unreliable, to a sales-ready lead, that's fantastic. Now, just a really quick one to do is to check the button that says Post Events to Google Analytics. That will automatically post phone calls and form submits to Google Analytics. So using the parameters I have in front of you here. So already this gives us some really fantastic stuff for us. Gives us some fantastic events in Google Analytics. And if you've been using Google Analytics and Google Ads for a while, you'll know that you can import conversions from Google Analytics into Google Ads and keep those conversions inside the person that caused them. Fantastic, right? If you want to get even better than this, this is like a really good first step. And if you're just setting up a client account day one and you didn't have a lot of time, I would recommend this way. If you have a little bit more time though, you might want to filter those conversions before moving them back to the ad platform. And the way that this is how we have ours set up right now is we use a custom Google Analytics event, and we filter the heck out of it before we call it a lead. And I'll show you the filtering that we use, and you can see why we filter these and what we're filtering it for. Some of these would be easy to do in Google Analytics. Some of them would be difficult or impossible or just a real pain in the butt. So is it a form submit? Are they an ActiveDEMAND employee? That's hard to figure out in Google Analytics and filter for. Do they have an email address? Are they from an organization that we've blocked? Are they from a public ISP or a Gmail address? Are they from a blocked country? Are they a current user already? This is the scrutiny that we put our conversions through before we consider them a sales-ready lead. And this is why I'm saying that typically with a lot of setups that I see out there, conversions aren't leads. Conversions aren't sales-ready leads, because when after you do all this crazy filtering for them, you find out that, oh, it's actually like a seventh or a sixth of the number we thought it was. And that's the interesting part. So that's where I'd really encourage you guys to filter these out in your lead workflows, and before posting those custom events to analytics. You can also do it on phone calls or texts. So if you guys get a phone call or text message in, I would encourage you guys to use the phone call workflow to filter it and then post events based on that. And you can see here as well, we also use text messages on our way in. And if someone texts us on the way in, we'll text it over to sales, and we'll also add activities to the CRM. And in terms of attribution, the CRM is really the kind of the bee's knees if you're lead gen. So if you guys have any lead gen clients, getting that CRM connected is the ultimate conversion, really, because then you get the sale, you get real revenue values, and you can start calculating return on ad spend or ROI with such accuracy that it makes your marketing a lot more powerful and a lot more palatable to business. This is where you can get into making some really interesting business statements, like for every $1 on Google Ads, we get an $8 return in revenue. That's a really interesting stat that really helps at the business and management level. And that's really why I would recommend that if you guys can, connect with the CRM, connect to ActiveDEMAND with your CRM, because you will get all of this really interesting, actionable data from your CRM, and you really get the ultimate conversion, which is the sale. Now, some of the questions that you might want to have for your client or for your account managers, whoever's client facing. Number one, do you have permission to change forms over to ActiveDEMAND forms? Some clients, you might not have permission for that, or you may just have to set that expectation up front. Number two question, can we use D&I tracking numbers on your website? Are there any special requirements around the phone numbers? And when I say special requirements, some customers may want a particular area code. And some area codes may be available, and some of them may not. Some of them, are running really dry. Around northern Alberta and Edmonton, it's difficult to get a 780 right now because they're pretty much all taken up. Do you have any print or offline campaigns coming up? Again, the reason why we're asking this of our customers, we're looking for phone numbers to track. We're looking for tracking URLs, anywhere that we might have a conversion leak. Can we enable call recording and transcription on inbound phone calls? Again, super valuable for marketing, super valuable for sales, and understanding what people are saying and what's on people's mind is so interesting when you get it explicitly from their mouth. And then the other thing to take a look at, what first steps do your clients take? Do they book an appointment with a salesperson? I think that we're doing a disservice for so many clients and businesses out there by having a contact form when we should have an appointment booker. So if you have a client that's that's the only thing they'll do is, we need to book an appointment for an assessment or for a quote build or for a kickoff meeting or something like that, use an appointment booker instead of a form, because a form is such a one-sided thing. I'm looking for an accountant right now, for example. I went and filled out a form. They never got back to me. Has this ever happened to you? It happens to everyone, right? And the problem is that the form, the business isn't promising me anything. At least with an appointment, when I book an appointment on a website and I'm allowed to do that, I get a time and a date. Not only I'll give you my information, I'll give you my name and phone number and email address. You give me a time and a date where you've booked off some time, and I can ask you some things and get that appointment. So I would encourage you guys, if you can, take a look at appointments, because it's a better conversion and it's more fair to the customers, I guess, than just asking them to fill out a form, and maybe or maybe not, they'll get a response. And then check out what CRM they're on, because some of these CRMs, again, are going to be able to integrate with. We're going to be able to get that information from sales, and we're going to be able to understand what constitutes a lead or not. Finally, confirm your measurement plan and the definition of lead. This is probably the most critical point, because this is really setting the expectation. What do you expect marketing to do? Are you looking for leads? Are you looking for donations? What do you want from us? And how do we define that stuff around? You can't just say a lead. It has to, like, what is a lead? A lead is the person has a name, they have an email address, they're interested in a product that we sell, they're from this country, they're from X, Y, and Z. So you get all that information and make sure that you have that definition really nailed down, because it's super important to understanding what expectations the client has, or setting them because they didn't have an expectation. Finally, some homework, and forgive my colloquial language here, but are they on WordPress? What CMS are they on? Is it like a real nasty, old, out-of-date CMS? The problems with some of these is that if you need to build a page, it's going to be a pain in the butt. Maybe it's worth doing a landing page instead, or using some landing page technology. Can you get access to their CMS? Can you swap out forms and add tracking code? Do they have Google Tag Manager? Heck, if they have a really bad CMS, do they even have Google Analytics? That might be worth asking as well. And then, are you deploying email campaigns for them? So these questions will all help you build out the tracking solution that you need to for them. Finally, definitely check out our support portal. And the other things that we're doing, if you're looking for more information on marketing automation and how to set up, we've got a podcast that we're putting out that has lots of great information. We have our blog, and on top of that, yes, also the support site as well.